Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am so excited to be having this conversation today with Mr. Jonathan Niziol, model, real estate investor, trainer, athlete, but here today as an advocate, a mental health advocate. Um, he's got an incredible story, and I'm so excited to dive into this with him. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate being here, Danielle. It's a pleasure.
I just want to I first lay the groundwork for everybody. Like, this is going to be a not an easy conversation. This is a conversation that is we're going to talk about addiction, we're going to talk about mental health, we're going to talk about all of the things here. But Jonathan, want to just open up the floor for you, because I am not going to be able to set your story up properly to get into this, but just want to give you the space to set the stage for us and what you have gone through, and what how your story has begun.
Sure. So I guess I'll start at the beginning. I'm from Canada originally. I grew up on a 500-acre cattle farm about 2.5 hours east of Toronto. But I'm coming to you from Texas now. I've been living here for about 5 years. It's, yeah, it's wonderful down here. I love Canada. I miss things about it, but I love being in Texas for now. Like you said, athletics have always been a really big part of my life, more so than school. But they took me pretty far in school with regards to scholarships and stuff like that. But yeah, I was it's funny. I was tested for ADD and all that stuff, and they're like, "No, your son just loves sports. Like, if he wants to do the work, he can do it and do it great. He just would rather be chasing tennis balls and playing hockey." Like,
100%.
yeah. And I'm like, oh. I remember I had to miss gym class too to do the testing like for 4 weeks in a row. I'm like, my favorite subject, I gotta miss it to do this, and then finally get the diagnosis. But yeah, athlete, and like you said, I'm a model, been modeling for 15 years, still modeling, still going strong, love it. It's had its ups and downs, which we'll talk about, and doing some real estate development or real estate investment down here. Although this last year has been kind of weird, as I think it has been for everybody with rates and stuff like that. So it's kind of been a little bit slower. And yeah, personal training for the last 13 years, actually, no, about 14 years now. I have a, I've learned to love my body through the things that I've been through, and now love sharing that passion and just knowledge and helping people with their own journeys. So yeah, that's a bit background on me. But I guess if you want me to get right into my story,
Yeah, get right into
so
it.
so things like I said, I had a wonderful childhood. Everything was pretty standard. The regular ups and downs and stuff. But it was the day before my 21st birthday. My mom passed away very suddenly, very unexpectedly, and it was like it just rocked me. I remember I had just moved out of the house, out of the like away from the farm 11 days earlier, and I was going to buy fish for my fish tank. I had the morning off. I had got my first big boy job. I was selling cars at a Ford dealership, and I was like, I'm gonna do my thing. I was just going to buy some, like I said, just some fish for my fish tank, probably some guppies or whatever. And I got a call from home, and I thought it was like, oh, okay, like we're just planning my 21st birthday celebration or what we're gonna do, and then it was like, "Hey, Jonathan, your mom's dead." I was like, just, I mean, she wasn't sick. She wasn't, it was not, it was just very sudden, and her and I were, without question, best friends. She was my biggest cheerleader. She was not very good at hiding the fact that I was her favorite child. um, Not at all. And I was okay with it because I was like, hey, but yeah, she and I had a very incredible bond. So that rocked my world, and as it does. That was the first time in life I learned that you never know what people are going through, because I remember the day that it happened, and I'm doing all these things like having heard it, and then having to go to the funeral home and all these things that I had to do. And I'm looking around, and like McDonald's is still open, people are still driving to work. I'm like, shut it down, man. Like, don't you understand like what is going on? Like, my world as I know it has ended, and everybody's just like going around as normal. So it's like you never know what people are going through, and you really have to, like, I think, keep that in mind and lead with that, because you never know who's having that day or what, what they've been through and stuff. And don't judge a book by its cover. I think I'm a good example of that. I think we all are a good example of that. But soon after that, I was diagnosed with some mental health issues, and it was severe anxiety and clinical depression and panic disorder and self-harm. And back then it was just, those are words I never heard before. Like, this is 20 years ago, and it wasn't talked about as freely and openly as it is now. And I just thought I was going crazy. I'm like, nobody's ever felt this way. I'm losing it. I'm being a wimp. Like I can't pull it together. Like, so I got the official diagnosis and started taking medication, but I found a great extra medication was a little bit of, well, not a little bit, a whole lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
And it started out as just, I mean, I drank in college. I drank probably too much in college. And I always say that I went to college for business administration, but I studied, alcohol, lacrosse, and girls. It was, I mean, I was just young doing whatever, but I, yeah, I just found that, my everything would kind of go away for, 15 to 30 beers at a time. And I soon had to stay in that cycle of that, because you sober up and all the problems that you're running from come rushing back. And then all the problems that you've created now from being drunk, whether it's, getting an argument with, whoever, or not showing up to be wherever you were supposed to be, or acting like an idiot, or doing whatever, like all those out on top of you, you're like, oh, this, get me out of here. So it's back to the bottle. But after about 3.5 years, I would say, of being like a non-functioning alcoholic and really just stuck in that, in that cycle, I resigned to the fact that, I'm an alcoholic, and I don't know how I'm like, this has got a hold of me. I remember this morning, like it was yesterday. It's crazy. It's like, this is like 16 years ago, 17 years ago. I don't know, something like that. I was like 8:30 in the morning. I called in work. I called in sick for work. I had the shakes because I was going through alcohol withdrawals, and I'm opening my first beer for the day, and just, sitting at my house drinking by myself. And I broke down. I'm like, that's it. I'm an alcoholic. It's got me. But I got very lucky. And I say that because I got a really bad case of acute pancreatitis when I was 25, and it was from drinking. And it put me in the hospital for just under a month, and I had to have 5 blood transfusions, and I lost 60 pounds in total while I was in there, like 40 pounds in the first 2 weeks. And I almost died twice while I was in there. And that was very, I mean, sobering, the puns there, but it was very eye-opening as a 25-year-old to be there. And you're 25, you think, oh, I'm invincible, whatever. Like, I can't. I mean, how it is. And like, I could see, I know I was gaining weight. Everything was changing around me, but like, still, I mean, I was still, well, I wasn't really functioning that well, but whatever. You're 25. You're like, psh, until you're laying there, and you're laying there on your deathbed, and, you're laying there in the hospital ward, and it's nighttime, and, just the beeps and sounds of the machines that are keeping you alive are going on. And for some reason, I would watch Food Network like constantly. My nurses would be like, because I couldn't eat anything. They were had to starve me. That's why I lost so much weight.
Wow.
Like, why are you like torturing yourself? Because I'm like, I'm gonna eat that when I get out. I'm gonna eat that when I get out. I'm gonna eat that. So I remember, like, right before I checked out of the hospital, um, the pancreas specialist who was overseeing my case, he was a younger guy, and he came to me. He's like, look, man, like, the severity of pancreatitis that you have it's insane for your age. Like, we see it in people who are in their 70s and 80s, and they've been drinking since they were like 15. Yeah, he's like, people your age, they come in for like a day, they're out. They can drink a couple days, whatever. They're like, for what you went through. And that's when he told me I almost died twice. I don't know what happened. I just remember there was a lot of chaos, and, the whole
Yeah.
thing was very chaotic. He's like, look, man, what you went through, like, alcohol can't be part of your life anymore. It'll kill you. And I was like, dude, after what I just went through, I'm done with it. I am
Yeah.
done. So I've been 16 and a half years sober from alcohol, um, thankfully, and got the message on that. But I also found that, like, I still had a lot of unresolved traumas. And I mean, I added a couple along the way. So I was playing professional lacrosse and everything was going great. I was sober. I was in the gym. I'm having the best season of my life. And then I had a career ending injury. And I'm
Oof.
like, you know what? I was like, it sucked, but it was like, okay, I'm 26 now. Like, I mean, you can't make a living off professional lacrosse. And even
Totally.
still, it's hard for most people. So going to work with black eyes and stitches and all that kind of stuff, like, I was getting kind of old, and indoor lacrosse is very physical. Like,
Yeah.
you're allowed to fight and stuff like that. So, starting to take its toll on my body, and, arthritis in my shoulder. And I was like, okay, I mean, I think it's time to call it a career. Like, I got to the pinnacle of where I wanted to get to. It's time to move on from there. I don't want to come back and just grind through torn knee. And I'm a big believer, when one door closes, another one opens.
Mm.
So my mom was actually a model in the late 70s and early 80s. And I thought, you know, somebody told me I was decent on the eyes once. Like, maybe I'll go talk to some agencies and check it out. Like, just for, I don't know, just
Yeah.
curiosity's sake, and went to some open castings and got some contract offers. And then that's when I started modeling internationally, or modeling just in Toronto, sorry. And then pretty soon after that, about a year into my modeling career, I got an opportunity to go to South Africa, which was fantastic. Wonderful people, Cape Town. Like,
Wow.
man, you don't realize how far down that is and how big the African continent is until, like, you're in a plane flying from, like, Amsterdam to, you're like, I'm going all the way over the African continent, like, as far down as you can.
Yeah.
But after what I'd been through with, like, with the pancreatitis and stuff, I was like, man, like, I'm doing this. Like, this
Totally.
opportunity's here. Like, I'm gonna take it and just run with it. I didn't know if I was gonna get there and there are lions walking down the street. I knew nothing about South Africa. I'm just like, I've seen, like, the National Geographic channel. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna. And I got there and it's a
Totally.
normal civilized society. I'm like, oh,
Totally.
whoops. I'm like, I'll probably keep that to myself until, like, 20 years later, when I'm on a podcast or something. But yeah, I was like, I didn't know what to expect, but amazing people. The scenery was incredible. I would say the most friendly people that I've met in my travels for modeling. And I always compare it to, because I spend so much time in the gym. And I should go back. Like, when I came out of the hospital, I had a much better appreciation for my body. And I wanted to learn how to take better care of it. So I always say that I put a lot of my drinking energy into learning about the body. And, YouTube was, I don't know if it was around or if it in its infancy, whatever, but it was just like, magazines and
Yeah.
muscle and fitness and men's health and stuff like that. And I just started studying, and I just started learning and making mistakes and learning and talking to this person and bro science and all kind of stuff, but just like
Yeah.
understanding it. So, and I was still working out like a pro athlete, lifting heavy, because I saw these people on these magazine covers, and now I'm getting ready to go internationally and I'm going to be competing against them. So I'm like,
Yeah.
these guys are massive, they're jacked. And with my genetics and my, structure, whatever, I am a larger dude. And I got there and these guys are like half my size. Like, I'm like, oh, they're lean and they're not massive. Like, I'm still working out like a pro athlete. But I say that because wherever I've gone, I've always spent a ton of the time in the gym. And within like a week of being in that gym in South Africa, people are like, hey, we know, like, men and women, like, are
Yeah.
like, hey, we noticed you're new, and not in like a weird, like, sexual, like, any kind of, just in like
Right.
a friendly, hey, we see you're new, you want to come, we're having a barbecue, like, we'd love to. It was fantastic. Like, New York, not so much. Miami, people keep to themselves.
Yeah.
London, people were a little bit friendlier, but still, not the same way.
Yeah.
Miami, yeah, I already said that, but the people keep to themselves. But yeah, like, it was fantastic. But with that, seeing myself next to these guys, and even though I was doing well and getting a lot of work, I was starting to compare myself, and I started to get a little, well, it started as a little, but then became a lot. But that body dysmorphia kind of creeped in. Like, yeah, so it's like, oh, I got this, and this job, but my roommate got this, and this job. Why didn't I get that other one? Like, oh, maybe I need to look more like that person.
Yeah.
So I spent 6 months in South Africa. It was fantastic. My next stop, I came back to Canada in February. It was like summer in South Africa, and came back kind of in February. And I was
Oh,
like, I'm here for 2 weeks and I'm going to complain every single day. So just be ready for that. So 2 weeks there, and I hopped in my car, drove down to Miami because that was my next stop. And it's like, awesome. Like, here's my first major US market. Like,
yeah.
this is a big deal, like getting represented in Miami. So 2 days into being in Miami, I got a casting, or actually what's called a go see. So a go see is like when you're new to town, or if you have some new pictures come out or something, a designer or a photographer might ask to see you specifically. It's like a personalized casting, basically.
Got it.
So yeah, so my agency said, okay, so we got this go see for you. I'm like, awesome. I've been here for 2 days. I'm gonna crush it.
Yeah.
Um, they told me that it was for a swimwear and underwear designer, which is, normal stuff. I did a lot of body work anyway. Um, they said it was at 8:30 at night, which was kind of weird. And they said it was at his house, his apartment, which is also kind of weird. But I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, at least he wants to like see me and,
Right.
just, but then he said, just so you know, the guy's a bit of a creep, but if he likes you, he'll book you for a lot of work. I was like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, I'm in Miami now. I've got to make it work. So I go there, and long story short, I'm trying on underwear and trying on stuff, and like as I'm doing it, he's starting to like get closer and closer to me, to now where like, whereas at one moment he's like standing across the room, and then he's all of a sudden he's sitting on a stool like right in front of me, like checking out the fabric. I'm like, dude, what fabric are you checking out? It's a Speedo and you made it. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing here? So, but I was like, it's not unusual for me to walk into a room and then like have to strip down to my underwear and do stuff
Totally.
like that. It's just, it's part of the biz, or like try this on. It's like, nothing. It's like, okay, cool. But then I came out once and he just pulled my pants down and started to sexually assault me. And I was like, what is going on? And like I said before, like people who know me and from just what I told, like I've been in a lot of physical altercations when
Yeah.
it was like, college bar fights. After my mom passed away, I had a lot of like misplaced anger. I was always looking for a fight.
Yep.
Lacrosse, lots of fighting. I had no problem sticking up for myself and my teammates. So I have no problem being like in a physical altercation and physically, defending myself. So my first thought is, oh, I'm going to kill this person. Like,
Right.
I don't know what's happening right now. Like, once the shock kind of started, like, wore off, I was like, okay, this person's dead. And
Yeah.
then I thought to myself, well, no, because then I'll go to jail for
Right.
life. And I don't know if I'll stop hitting this person until they are dead. And I figured, I just need to get out of this situation, get away from it. And that's what I did. But I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my agency what happened. I didn't tell anybody. And for a couple of reasons. One reason is because back then, this is 2010, this happened. It's before the Me Too movement. Things like that would happen. And if you kind of caused a stir, you'd be known as like a bit of a troublemaker in the, yeah. So it's like that designer talks to their photographer friend, talks to their, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this guy's a troublemaker, and you get blacklisted in that market. But also I was ashamed, I was mad, I was pissed off, I was frustrated, I was confused, I mean, you name it. I was feeling it. So I just kept it to myself. And about 2 weeks later, not coincidentally, the body dysmorphia kind of just took over. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna completely change my look. I need to look more like the rest of these guys. And I developed an eating disorder, and that I struggled with for about 8 years. And I always say that I was like a functioning bulimic, because I would wake up and I'd eat my healthy meals and do all my things. And then it was like when I was alone with my thoughts, when I had to like,
Totally.
I would just go and get like $100 worth of junk food and just, tune out for a bit, and I'd regret it. There's a fly on my microphone. Um, I'd regret it, and then I'd purge it up. And that continued for about 8 years. So after about 3 years of traveling consistently, New York, London, back to New York, like just, doing the whole route, the whole circuit, just, it started to kind of wear on me. It's wonderful, but it also becomes, very, I don't know, like you go home for a bit and everybody's lives have kept going, and you're
Yeah.
just trying to like catch up, and like living out of a suitcase, it's fun and exciting, but then like at the same time, You're like, well, I just met this girl that I really like here, and I made some friends. And your agent's like, hey, we've got New York back on the phone. They want you back over there, And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm leaving now. So I decided that I wanted some stability, and I wanted to put down roots and get back to, being around my dad. And I wanted to get a dog. My little, well, she's not little, she's like medium-sized Beagle Bulldog, just laying by the door like she's never been outside before, even though I just let her in from being out there for half an hour. And I wanted to start my fitness business because fitness was a huge passion of mine. And now I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it privately, and I wanted to really help work with people. So I found, but a lot of my addiction is distraction. And for me, one of my other distractions was traveling. I didn't realize that until I got back and I was going back to the same place. It started to become a routine, which now I'm very routine in a good way. But then at the time, it was like,
Yeah.
where's the pizzazz? Where's the excitement? Where's the newness of like being dropped in the city and like having to figure everything out? Like that started to weigh on me. So my next stop, I mean, I was done with alcohol, but I was like, well, I'm gonna start smoking weed. Like, what's the big deal? But it accelerated pretty quickly, and I'm an all in kind of person. Like,
Yeah.
I have a very addictive personality, and if I do something, it's like if I want to play lacrosse, I'm going to be a professional lacrosse player. If I want to drink, I'm going to be an alcoholic. If I want to smoke weed, I'm going to smoke 2 ounces a day or a week, sorry, and like just massive amounts. And I was really, really good at hiding. Like I was always very insular with my addictions. Whereas it wasn't like, hey, let's have a party and get all messed up. It was like, hey, let's go out and everything looks great on the surface, and then I'm gonna just retreat and shut down.
Yep.
So, go to work, go train clients, I'd go to shoot, I'd go to the gym, everything would be like totally normal, and then it'd be all bets are off. I get home and I could just feel the anxiety building as I got home. And I'm like, oh man, I got to sit there with my thoughts and these four walls. So it was marijuana. And then I was doing a lot of nitrous, a lot of whippets, um, and Adderall. I mean, I was like, man, told me about Adderall. They're like, so you can get shredded and you can get really focused and have a lot of energy. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. So I went to my doctor. I told him I had ADD, and he's like, "Oh, here's a prescription." I'm like, but again, with my addictive personality, that all got, it got out of hand pretty quickly. And if I had the opportunity to, I would take like 3 or 4 day binges where I wouldn't sleep for, any period of time. Like I would be up for 3 or 4 days, just
Wow.
stuck in my apartment, just enough to get Bailey outside and to take her out and stuff. But otherwise, I would just be locked up in there. And like one by one, each substance really like started to show. Like I think my friend says it's the universe, and I think it's just I think there's some truth to that. And for whatever reason, like weed became a very anxious, uncomfortable place for me. Whereas before I could just sit, I spent 6 years smoking tons of weed, and I
Yep.
could just sit there and watch cartoons and just like veg out. And
Yeah.
then I started just like thinking about all the things that I should be doing for work. And not enough to get motivated and do them, but enough to like sit there and just obsess about them. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is no fun. Like done with that.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had a very like a breakdown rock bottom with the whippets as well. And
Yeah.
people talk about rock bottoms and stuff, and a lot of addicts I've talked to, and I'll just speak for myself. Like people already always ask me, like, what was the rock bottom you hit that got you to stop this? And a lot of times the rock bottoms I hit along the way were much lower than the actual final straw. So I've had dozens and dozens of rock bottoms where
Yeah.
I dump my Adderall in the toilet. I dump my weed in the toilet. I take a picture. I'd be like, I'm not doing this. I'm done with it. Flush. And then 2 days later, it's like, man, I got to clean my house and I got to get this done. Like it'd be a lot easier with a little bit of Adderall or, here come those feelings. Anyway, so I started to push those things out of my life. And the last thing I had was an over-the-counter muscle relaxer. And I'd taken these quite a while, but I'd just taken them because I had, lacrosse aches and pains and
Yeah.
working out too much, that kind of stuff. And in each pill there was 500 milligrams of methocarbamol and 200 milligrams of ibuprofen. And I would go in and get a generic bottle of them, and it says don't take 8 per day. And I'm like, that's for regular people. I'm like, 8. I'm like, watch this. But I soon went from taking 8 to taking 100 pills every single day.
Wow.
Like, it's just, it's not something that I'm proud of. It's not something that I'm embarrassed of or ashamed of. It's just a fact of the matter. I was taking 50,000 milligrams of methocarbamol and 20,000 milligrams of ibuprofen every single day without fail. I'd go and buy a bottle for $38 and change. I go home, I put like a handful of 40 in my mouth, swallow them down. As a result, I'm great at swallowing vitamins. Not a big deal. But I would take them and I would just, and then I'd wake up. If sometimes I'd pass out, sometimes I get really high, and then I would just take the next one and take the next one until I was done with them. I started noticing, as you can imagine, I started noticing some effects on my body where I was losing a
Yeah.
ton of weight. I was having fainting spells. I remember I fell down and cracked my head open. I woke up in a pool of blood. Bailey's licking my head or licking my face, like I'm in my apartment. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if I'm fainting in my apartment, what if I'm driving and I'm fainting? Like, and I hurt
Yeah.
somebody, and my anxiety's through the roof, and I have no motivation, no strength.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, like most addicts do, we see everything crumbling around us, and we don't want to address that it's the so obvious thing that's right in front of us. I was like, I need more carbs, I need more sleep, I need to stop being a wimp, I need to push through it. I like, yeah, you feel lightheaded because you took 100 pills yesterday. You're gonna take 100 pills today. Finally, I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, and I went to the hospital, and um, turns out I had a major intestinal ulcer from taking all those pills. They were just eating away at my intestinal, my digestive tract. But I didn't see any blood. Like, I wasn't seeing any blood when I was purging. I wasn't passing any blood in my urine or stool. It was just leaking out. So that's when I thought, okay, so you're 35 years old now, Jonathan, and we've been doing this for like 15 years.
Right.
And this plan you've had, it's not working, and it's time to do something drastic. Either I can graduate, because I always did kind of like the baseline drugs, except for Adderall. That's pretty aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like, okay, either I start doing Coke and Oxy, Hydro, whatever, or I need to do something, drastically different in the opposite way. Like, I'm not living the life that I should be. I'm not the person that people think I am. I'm not the person that I should be for myself. And that's when I decided to go to therapy. And for years, it was like, therapy's for wimps. I'm not going to sit
Totally.
there and have somebody judge me. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to pay somebody to judge me
Yeah.
for the things that I've done. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I was at time and money for drugs though. But it was just, you rationalize this thing. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm like, who's got time for therapy? I'm like, I have time to be messed up for 4 or 5 days in a row. Like, but I was like, enough is enough. It's time to do something different. And I went and I started doing one-on-one therapy, and things got heavy because
Yeah.
now I was dealing with all of those things. And I always say that I thought I had these like nice little compartmentalized boxes of like traumas and things that, all the things that had happened throughout the 15 years. And there are a lot of great things that happened too. It wasn't all just
Yeah.
doom and gloom, but all these things. And then I got sober and I started going to therapy and talking about them. And it was like everything just crashed in. But with that same mentality of being a farm boy, and in the summertime, it was like, okay, we're gonna do 13 hours a hay today because that's what we have to do. It's like, okay, like my friends are on a summer break at their cottages and stuff, and it's like, okay, that's what we have to do. Like, there's no, and same thing with athletics. It's like, oh, we're gonna have a game today, and their best player is so and so. I'm like, oh, that's their best player. Watch this. Like, that
Yeah.
same mentality. I was like, this is not going to defeat me, and I battled, and my little dog here, she gets a lot of credit for being there with me, because there's so many times when I thought, I can't do this. I can't face all this stuff. I just, I should just check out and do the, just, but I, and she'd do something really goofy, like, and I'd just sit there and be like, "What are you doing?" And that would just, it would just get me out of that negative spot, and in my day, just enough to like, just a little bit of positivity, a little bit of fun, and I'd try and focus on that, and then slowly but surely, like with working on talking about things and talking to somebody who's a educated, non-biased third party,
Yeah.
and helps you, and can help you see things differently, things started to get better, and they started to get a lot better. And it was and is a long process. I'm constantly working on it to this day. It never stops. I don't think we can ever stop working on ourselves. The day you think you get all figured out is the day you get left in the dust.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a massive thing for me. And when I decided to move to Texas, I remember when I was like a drug addict, and I saw my dad, and we were like hanging out once, and he's like, "I don't know what you're going through, but I can tell you're going through some stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about moving." He's like, "Where?" I'm like, "I'm just across town, maybe somewhere else in Toronto." He's like, "Look, like wherever you move to, your problems are going to follow you. So don't think you're going to move and it's going to fix everything." So he's like, "I don't know what you're going through." And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine, whatever." He's like, "Okay, but whatever." And when I finally moved to Texas, I was doing it for the right reasons. I was ready to move towards an opportunity and not running away from the things. I had got myself in a good place, and I was ready to like, I was, like I said, I was ready to move forward and take this opportunity, and to move down, and I wasn't running away from anything. I was bringing my baggage with me, and I was bringing all the things that I've done with me, but in a positive way, because that's not going to change. That's part of who I am. So that's kind of puts me at where we are now. I need to be active. I've learned like the routines that I have to do, and the things that I need for me to stay sober and to stay healthy. And yeah, I'm loving the ups and downs of life. Whereas for so many years I lived in the gray area, and
Yeah.
I just would do whatever to alter my state of consciousness. So when you're in that gray area, the highs only feel this high, and the lows only feel this low. But when you're nice and like sober, and I'm not a preachy like non-drinker or former drug addict. I don't think everybody should be doing, like, please do as you can. If you can drink and keep it in check,
Yeah.
I mean, more power
I
to
would
you.
feel you.
Yeah, I could not, but hey, more power to you. But in saying that though, you feel the highs are that much higher and then you feel the lows are that much lower. But that's the wonderful, like the beautiful thing about life that I really love to feel now. You can't feel those highs, instead of just being like, something good happened today, whatever. Oh, something bad happened today, whatever. So I'm just relishing living in that, and taking it one day at a time, and trying to get out and just share my story and share the things that I've been through, and hope to connect with people, and yeah, come on and talk with people like yourself. And yeah, it's taken a while.
I wanna hit on one of the points that you said, of for so long, and I've done this for I've had this experience as well. Like for so long, if you had come out and said, "Oh, I have depression or I have anxiety," people are like, "No, no, that's
Oh
not
yeah.
a public thing." And so I've even had it with my own family members, and to the point where I'm like, "I'm not going to talk to you about this. I don't want to talk to you at all. I'm not going to tell you how I am. I'm not going to tell you what I'm feeling, any of that, because all you're going to look at me and say is, no, that's not like, it's not a real thing. It's not something that
Yeah.
you can actually be going through." So I so appreciate that you made that point, because for so long, it has been that. And then we get to a period of time like COVID where we're like, oh shit, like a lot of people are actually going through these things on a daily basis. And now
Yeah.
we're all in our houses
Yeah.
thinking. We're
Yeah.
all just, and then we have things like we're able to now order alcohol delivered to our house.
Yeah.
And we've got some real problems that we are having to confront in the middle of a pandemic across the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And I think a lot of it has to do with generationally. Like for my yeah,
Yep.
for my dad, he didn't understand it because he was of the generation. He's a baby boomer, and you just buck up. You just kind of
100%.
work through it, and
Yep.
like, and not in like a, like in a dick kind of a way, just in like a, he doesn't understand it, and he's never I'm sure he's experienced it, but he didn't put a name on it, and
Yeah.
he always just moved forward, and I definitely admire that about him, and he can sympathize with what I've been through and the things that I've gone through,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know what it's like to have gone through it himself,
Yeah.
and he can't know. And I think it's a great thing now that we are talking about it a lot more, and we are seeing it a lot more, and we are having open conversations. And the thing that finally got me to talk about the things that I've been through, like, until a year ago, I never thought I would talk about the bulimia or the sexual assault publicly. Like, just until a year. I didn't tell my therapist when I got sober. I didn't tell anybody. And it's only because I, for myself, I learned forgiveness. And the way I look at it is this way. And I, like I said, this is just within the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And you know, I, okay, so I spent 15 years making bad decisions, making
Yeah.
some good decisions, but making bad decisions.
Yep.
And you know what? Okay, I was trying my best. I really was trying. I didn't have the tools. I was, learning, and had to learn from my mistakes. I was trying my best. And were they all the right decisions? No. Did I spend a lot of money and time? Yes. Do I wish I had that money back? Yes. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but
Yep. Yep.
but you know what? I tried. I was trying. And I can forgive myself for that, because, and then the things that I haven't brought up on myself, like my mom dying or the sexual assault, my mom dying is the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. And but it's a fact of my life, and it's an unfortunate fact of my life. And there are those things that are going to happen in your life. And I forgive myself for the things, like those things as well. And now I could honestly look at myself, and also because talking about having an eating disorder or being sexually assaulted, that's not manly. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm 6'2", I'm 215 pounds, I can bench whatever, hundreds of pounds at the gym. I'm not going to talk about that publicly. I was like, oh, wait, it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change me as a person. Like, a lot of the people that I knew when I was going through, especially my drugs phases, like, I'd walk in the gym, people would be like, oh man, there's Jonathan, the male model, the international model, is one of the fittest guys in the gym. Like, man. And not until recently, since I've been doing this, they come out and like, and they're like, dude, we had no idea. You look like you had it, like you look like you were the poster child for, like, you had it all, like you've
Yeah.
never seen a hard day in your life. And I was so good at masking, but that forgiveness is really what has helped me open up and share, and then wanting to help connect with people and continue to learn and grow myself, and like I said, to just, I mean, it sounds corny and it's cliche, whatever it is, but I want to help make the world a better place. And, if it connects with one person, then it's like, wow, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
If I could have connected with, people when I was at my certain rock bottoms and stuff, like I needed that. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear it from somebody that, looked a little different or acted a little different or had gone through a different kind of story, or could relate to. And
Yeah.
that's all I'm trying to do, really, is just like, just bring awareness to, and just share, because I wouldn't change any of the things that I've been through.
Mm.
I people have asked me, like, what would you do if you were, go back and talk to 21-year-old Jonathan? Like, you just lost your mom. What are you gonna tell him? They're all like, would you tell him not to drink? Would you tell yourself not? I was like, no, I wouldn't tell myself any of that stuff. I wouldn't say don't drink. I wouldn't say don't do drugs. I wouldn't say any of that kind of stuff. I would just say, look, it's going to be a long time, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, but you are going to get through it,
Yeah.
and just keep pushing, keep battling, because you will absolutely get through it. Because I needed to know that. I didn't, and I thought for so many years, like, I'm going to be a drug addict the rest of my life. This is who I'm going to be. I'm going to be like, so yeah, it's just what I'm trying to do and put forward and kind of pass along. And
I love that you called out the generational factor there because much like your dad, like it's my grandparents for me, it's the baby boomers, and they are the ones who very much are like, buckle up, buttercup, you better put your big girl panties on and
yeah,
let's roll and not let any of this slow you down. But I also think that for years, when you say as a male, like males in our society are have this picture of, oh, you can't go through all these things because you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be in this specific role. So I
Yeah.
love that you are coming out and saying, hold on, as a male, these are the things that I've gone through. To your point of, I had this mask, the mask that you wore, and people had no idea. Like, I'm sure you are not the first and you are not the only one out there
Yeah.
that is also thinking, I can't put myself out there like that, because we have certain things that we have to live up to and we have to show and be this type of male figure in society.
And it's like, I'll even take it one step further because like I have a like that bookshelf right back
Yeah.
there. Um, I've been on the cover of 150 romance novels, and I'm, I've got like 100 in there. A lot of them were shipped overseas. I never fought,
Yeah.
but I would be shooting those and I'd be going through all the things that I am. But here I am on the cover of a romance novel as the hero character. I
Yeah.
am the one that, men and women who are reading this are supposed to be picturing when they're reading,
Totally.
this kind of stuff. And I'm the hero. And I'm like, and I'm barely keeping it together, man, like in my personal life. But I'm that guy on like in that thing. And I'm like, the get there and save the day or get my secretary pregnant, whatever whatever these crazy stories. I've never read one, but I remember one of them is like claiming his 9 month consequence. And there's some I'll have to, yeah, but it's just interesting to see. And then with modeling and stuff like that, I do like national campaigns and people would see me all across like billboards and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, like, man, that guy's the man. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not.
You've been on a slew of podcasts, you're doing all this advocacy work around this. What is what is your progression through this? Do you want to keep, being on podcasts, or is there a next step you want to take in terms of being an advocate in these areas?
I want to I want to keep doing podcasts because I love having conversations like this and meeting people like yourself and spreading the word and
Yeah.
just sharing my story and learning and growing. Like I learned so much from having conversations with people, and then the people that I connect with in my DMs or whatever. It's
Yeah.
extremely powerful. I also want to take it to motivational speaking and
Okay.
do some in-person stuff
Yeah.
and started my own podcast. I'll be doing that the next 4 months. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I want it to work in conjunction with my modeling. Like
Okay.
my modeling's going really well and stuff, but I'm still being booked because 6'2", I'm, racially ambiguous,
Yeah.
like, got whatever. I want to be booked for, hey, that's Jonathan Niziol. That's the guy who's been through the stuff. Like we want to work with Jonathan Niziol.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to take it to that point too, and just and write a book. I want to take it
Mm.
to the point where I've talked a lot about my story, but there's a whole lot more that I'm not ready to talk about
Yeah.
and delve deeper and stuff like that. And I think eventually that will come, slowly. I think I'll start to talk about it more, but I think a lot of it could
Yeah.
be in book form and stuff. So
Yeah.
I just want to keep going because these are societal issues. Whether or not somebody can relate to all the things I've been to, it's not a thing. But like, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your gender,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter your social status, it doesn't matter your job title, it doesn't matter your tax bracket, it doesn't matter any of that. Like that
Yeah.
stuff doesn't matter. Like these things affect anybody and everybody, and it's just important to
Yeah.
get that out here and all over the world. So yeah, that's what I want to do with it. Keep going.
Awesome. There's no shortage of podcasts out there, but I'm so excited to see what angle and where you take and what position for your podcast, um, and how you do it. So I'll be so interested to see
Yeah,
when
so am I. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, if you got any recommendations, send them
Yeah,
my way. But
yeah,
it's
it's
hard. It's hard to pick
so hard.
niche, like, or one direction to go on because there's so many things that I've. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if you have any suggestions, send them my way.
It was for me, it was like the perfectionist in me. I was
Mhm.
like, I have to have the perfect topic. I have to find the perfect thing. So this started out as a YouTube series. This was not a podcast. And so I got like 10 episodes in. I'm like, well, hold on,
Mhm.
this could be the podcast. And I was having like extremely cool conversations. I was learning so much. But it's like the perfectionist in all of us wants it to be this one thing and wants it
Yeah.
to be teed up and be 100%. But I was just talking to somebody the other day. I was like, it's never going to happen. I was
Yeah.
like, you are continuously learning with every single episode, things that need to be changed, what you could be doing better, what your setup needs to be like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've got my dog barking right now because I'm at my house. Like it's
Yeah,
just
for
it's
sure.
constant things that you're learning. But it is the hardest part because we want to find the perfect topic and uh we're like, there's so many podcasts out there. We want to be different, but I'm like, it's never gonna be
Yeah. No,
exactly
for
how you
sure.
want it. But as soon as you get into it, like you immediately fall in love with it, and that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, that's great advice. Just kind of roll with it. Just kind of see where it takes you. Like, just get started and then, yeah, see where it takes you.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
It's been severely educational for me, but it's been a massive blessing because for me, like I get to learn from everybody every single time I do a recording, and I get to hear
Mhm.
so many stories. Um, but there isn't just one thing that somebody's doing. Somebody's always passionate about something else. Um,
Mhm.
everybody's had a separate road, has a separate story, and so it's a massive blessing just to be able to hear what every single person has gone through in their life and what their journey has looked like. Yeah.
For sure. I totally get that. And that's kind of what I want to piggyback on. And
Yeah.
yeah, just need to figure out the finer points. But
Yeah. Yep. It's there's a million platforms out there to help you get the episodes out and everything. Um, but like I said, I'm super excited to see what you do with it.
thanks. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for sitting down and sharing your story with me and everything that you have been through on your journey. I so appreciate it. And like we were talking about beforehand, I've had my own personal experience in getting to watch family members go through addiction, and so for me, it's such a blessing to be able to hear other stories. Um, it's a realization that you're not the only one who's gone through things and witnessed, and so I so appreciate you taking the time and talking to me, Jonathan.
I really appreciate you having me on and having the conversation and giving the platform and what you're doing. It's, it's really important. It's awesome. And
Yeah,
just keep up the great work.
yeah.
Yeah, you're killing it. So no, I
thank
really do. I really do appreciate it.
thank you, I appreciate it so much. And like Jonathan said, I will have all of his socials linked down below so you guys can go follow him, keep up where he's going to be this year. But as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.